For my project, I'm going to be talking about Gregory the Great, and I decided to do it in a form of a letter written by him talking about his life. My name is Gregory the Great. You may know me as the first monkish pope. I want to share with you highlights of my life, what I believe to be some of my greatest successes. I was born in the year 540 in Rome into a privileged aristocratic family. I was far more educated than many others in my generation. Due to my education and family, I became prefect in Rome in the year 573. Shortly after, I left that lifestyle and I became a monk. It was a much more appealing lifestyle to me. During that time, I was able to establish 7 monasteries. For a while, I was in Constantinople as a representative for Pelagius II. When I returned to Rome, there was a flood and a plague. The plague took the life of Pelagius. When Pelagius II died, I succeeded him as pope in the year 590. At that time, it was significant that a former monk was now pope. When I assumed the position, I was known to have a different view for church and state. I viewed them as more equal than most anyone else. I saw the church to rule the state, and the state to be a help to the church and be used for reforms. Gelasius, who was pope in 492 to 496, never combined church and state. He stayed true to Chalcedon and Leo I, who believed there to be ecclesiastical issues and legal issues, never to be combined. I wanted to seek unity and proper relationship between church and state. While I was pope, John IV the Faster was the patriarch of Constantinople. He introduced and assumed the position of ecumenical patriarch. I denied this term because it promoted a sole ruler while he was ruling in the east and I was in the west. During this time, I was inspired to come up with what I believe the position of pope and his office to be. I desired for it to be viewed as a servant of the servants of God. Later, this came to be the papal title, and I couldn't be more thankful. I think it represents humility and authority all in one. My desire was to serve politically and as a pastor. I wanted to assume this position twofold. I desired to serve the state and the church while being pope. While I was taking on the role of pope, I was finishing my work, the pastoral role. I desired there to be unity and order within the church. I believed the pastor should be in charge, leading the flock and walking in purity. During this was the Augustinianism had risen. Important pieces of this theology are total depravity, grace, and predestination. I'm a man that does not like extremes. Augustine's theology was saying that man could only sin after the fall. God's grace had to intervene for us, and it would only come to us if we were predestined for it. That was probably the biggest controversy of all. I was an advocate for something more in the middle. You may know it as semi-Augustinianism. This was established with Augustine's theology at the Council of Orange in 529. I desired to bring the more balanced theology into the Middle Ages. I believe that our human will has to do with us receiving God's grace. We have to respond to the grace that is given to us. We don't choose when it's given to us, but we do have to respond and obey. This is significant for the growth of the church and its theology. One thing I'm most proud of is instigating the first large-scale mission from Rome to England. It was an effort to see the pagans turn to Christianity. My heart was to see continuity in religion. I sent Augustine along with 40 monks. Augustine was an incredible theologian. He was baptized in 387, became a presbyter in 391 at Hippo, and then became the bishop. His influence on theology was great, his testimony was relevant, and he was someone I loved to send out to promote Christianity to the pagans. We both desired to save England from the rise of paganism. Our goal was to convert them to Roman Catholicism. My overall goal was to see peoples and lands Christianized. I really had a heart for missions. I'm really thankful for the impact I was able to make for the Roman Church. Later, we see that Pope Gregory the Great died in 604 and was canonized shortly after. The information I found outside of what I found in our textbook by Ferguson was in The Servant of the Servants of God by Edward Hardy, Gelasius I by Thomas Noble, and St. Augustine and the Conversion of England by F.A. Van Leer.